Okay, next work in progress on Judy. So it's been 2 weeks since I did any work on her. So time flies. I had this piece is for Tony Baker, who is also producing the quarter scale Rhino piece, sculpted by Troy McDivitt. So I had a week of building and prepping 5 rhinos for him, and then right after that, George Stevenson of Blackheart Models reached out to me to do a quick turnaround print job, which actually took about 7 days because it's such a big, I can't discuss what it is. He wants to wait to announce it, but it was a very large piece, took about 200 hours in printing, and then my prep and all that stuff. So 2 weeks since we've touched her. So the last time I left off, I had kind of gotten the base, the colors on the base, and then I don't think I showed it, but I masked off this bottom part, the tan, and I just kind of glossed over the railing and the base. This has been glued on now, so the base, for the most part, I think it's done, and it looks good. So I'm real happy. I just sent a picture of that to Tony. He's happy with it, so I think the base is done. It's a little dusty because when I was doing all the Rhino prep and the print prep, it's a crazy, messy process. So I'm going to spend some time dusting this off, but I think this looks good. So we got kind of a glossy top. It's got some sheen to it, and then we got the bottom, which is flat. So a nice kind of contrast as far as finishes go. And we got the little metal highlights on the railings, which I think looks good. So we're gonna put that to the side, so we don't damage it. Okay, so what we're doing today is we're gonna start masking. And you can hear my chair. My chair doesn't roll around anymore because it's covered in putty and all sorts of stuff. So for the masking, we're gonna start masking off the bike and the robot, and we're just get the next colors down on these pieces. So this has had 2 weeks to dry. So I'm assuming that the paint is in good shape for masking. I didn't put anything on top of it. I don't know if I'm gonna, I thought about glossing this, but I actually like the finish on it. It's not high gloss, it's not matte. It's got a nice sheen to it. So I don't think I'm gonna put a high gloss on this. I think it looks really good just for this. When you start glossing everything and making it shiny, it kind of loses something. So the next step I got to do is I got to start masking off for the blue and like the lenses. So my initial thought is I want to spray the lenses, mask off for the blue, but then spray the lenses, like kind of wipe it with some shading. So it looks like it's got a highlight in the middle. And then those have got to dry for a little while, so maybe I'll mask that off, and then while that's drying, I can start masking off her clothing. I have to figure out what I'm going to do for the screen here. I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of make it look like a white screen with some shading on it, and then yeah. So I need to look at my reference too. Some of my photos that I have for reference, which they're on my phone, so I can't look at them. So anyway. Let's do a quick tape test. see if this tape is going to hold up. So I'm just going to put some on and rip it off. And this should be good. I mean, I had a really good prep, and this paint has been drying for 2 weeks, so we should be good to go. So one thing I've got to do is I've got to take the paint off of this lens because I forgot to mask over it like I did on this one. So this is covered in paint, and I don't want that covered in paint. So I'm gonna do that real quick. And I don't care if I take off some of the other paint, because I've gotta still black out these lenses. Once I mask everything off, I'm gonna spray these black, because I need to block the light. So they still have a little bit of light leak coming through from all that. So let's get this paint taken off. I kind of have to switch my brain to paint mode because I've been in prep mode for 2 weeks. I have to switch my train of thought a little bit here. Oops, that's not good. So I'm gonna just take a little lacquer thinner on a Q-tip here. I'm gonna take this paint off. It should come off pretty easily with lacquer thinner. But there's quite a bit of paint on here, so we're gonna, between all the work I've been doing, there it goes, it's coming off. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't mask this off, I just forgot to. So it's not the end of the world. One of the last things that will get sprayed is some clear on these lenses, so they've got a nice shine to them. So I use one Q-tip to get the initial paint off, and I'll use another one to get the rest off. And I still have yet to upload the other work in progress, so. I actually took Labor Day off and went to a lake house, which I haven't been to in a long time. It's rare that I take time to go to a lake house with my family because again, if I'm not working, I can't get paid. So that's the one downfall about being self-employed, is that there's no paid vacation. At least in this line of work, if you have your own business or something, Okay, so there's that. And then we're going to come in here with a clean Q-tip and just get the rest of it off. I don't care if I take a little bit of the paint off the other part of the lens because it's going to get blacked out and sprayed it that blue. And I'm going to paint that trim, this little band right here, another color, maybe chrome or something. Okay, there we go. So we got that taken off. Now we're going to mask that lens off. That's going to get a little black wash in that recess, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Hindsight being 2020, I probably should have waited to glue those little kickstands on because now I risk the chance of breaking them, so I just gotta be careful. Alrighty, so there's that. I'm gonna put some gloves on because I feel like my hands are kind of sweaty. I don't want to get fingerprints all over this. Okay, I show a little masking on camera because again, it's a slow process, and I've showed this hundreds of times in other videos. But let me show you the way I like to mask. Okay. Okie dokie. Oops, sorry. Excuse me. Okay, so what I like to do, and I've showed this 100 times, is my favorite tool is a toothpick that I've kind of taken the tip off. So I just kind of bit the tip of the toothpick off. Take my tape, Tamiya tape. I'm going to lay it really loosely, kind of roughly where I want it. Okay, so I'm just going to tack it down real loose. I'm not going to try to force it to go the curve. Because when you start doing that, you put tension on the tape and it wants to pull up. Excuse me. And now I'm going to take my little toothpick and I'm just going to push it down into the groove where I want it to go. So let the tape do its thing. Don't try to get it to bend. Okay. The trick is don't force the tape to go somewhere it doesn't want to go. Just like that, okay? And you want you don't want to use a sharp toothpick because you'll tear the tape. You want something with a blunt tip so it doesn't tear the tape. Okay. Now I've got a blade here with an X-Acto blade with a brand new blade in it. And I'm going to go in here right in the groove. And I'm not going to put any pressure on the blade. I'm going to let the blade do the work. You can hear it cutting. If you don't hear it cutting, then your blade is too dull. Like that. Take this piece here that's left over. I'm going to put it down and use that right here. So I'll just show a little bit of this on camera because it's the same thing. And we can lift this piece up. Now I didn't go around this corner here. This is a really tight corner right here. So I'm actually going to lift this end up a little bit. And I'll probably come back and tape this edge again from the other direction. Oops, I took off the wrong side. No, that's not the side I want to take out. That's the side I need to leave down. Just like that. Since I got this little piece here, I might as well use it. So I'm just going to throw it on here. And so this really tight corner here, I'll come back around from the other side and do it the other way too. And then I come back and seal it, and I can look real close. I can see that I got a little tape right here. It's a little. Not exactly where I want, so I can take that little sliver off. So when you're masking something like this, where it's going to be really clean, it's really important to make your masking perfect. Because you can't hide bad masking when the paint job is clean. I need a pair of tweezers too. So that's basically the process. Outline it, use a Q-tip, cut it, and continue all the way around. So I'm going to do that to everything on the bike, and I'm going to do that on the robot guy too. So it'll take me a couple hours probably to get this masked, and then when we come back, I'll decide if I want to paint the lenses first or do the blue first and go from there. So I'll come back in a little while after I get everything masked. Okay, so I did all the masking and I got the blue spray and it's drying right now. I just sprayed the bike itself, but I had sprayed some of these other smaller pieces a little while ago as I was working. So I'm going to take the tape off of this guy because let's see what this looks like. Because this doesn't get any more colors. This is the only color. Only other color was blue. So let's see what this looks like. This had about, an hour to dry or so. I keep stabbing myself on my freaking airbrush needle over here. So let's see how this looks. We get a sense of what the blue and the green will look like together. Keeping the color scheme pretty simple, two-tone, just the blue and the green, and then all the little detail stuff we're going to do. So this particular paint says it dries with like 15 minutes. You can handle it in 2 hours. So as long as I don't touch the blue too much, I can take this tape off. Let's see what we look like. And I think that's going to look pretty sharp. So yeah, it's a good color combo. Put this guy to the side, let him continue to dry. I need to keep that masked. Let's see, I can unmask this back part of this head. See how that looks. Again, I'm still deciding if I want to gloss cut all this stuff. I think I need to get some new 2K clear, because the last few times I've used those stuff I have, it didn't seem to want to cure after a couple days. I think it's just, I've had it for a long time. I think maybe past its shelf life. It does have a shelf life after a while. So I think I bought the gallon kit. It's been at least a year, if not longer. So he does have a little detail piece on the back here. I'm just going to hand paint it, I think. I only did like a chrome, but I think I may do, maybe like a, yeah, it's looking good. So like this little strip right here, I may do this like a steel or something. We'll see. But the masking looks good. The colors look good. Good color combination. Let's see, what else can I unmask? So the legs were a little tricky to mask. And the rest is going to get hand painted, so I probably could unmask these. I'll probably let these dry another hour or so, and then I can start working on some of the hand painting, I think. This paint dries relatively quick, so it must be a lacquer-based paint for it to dry as fast as it does. If this was an enamel, it would take forever to dry. Some acrylics dry really quick, but lacquers dry really, really fast. So these were kind of tricky to mask because typically if I paint a recessed area, I'll paint that first and mask it off. But I did the opposite here. I painted the green and then masked around the recess of that leg and then painted the blue. It worked, it's just a little trickier to mask. I don't want to bore you guys with all the masking because it took a long time to mask everything. And I didn't want to hand paint the blue, I wanted to spray it so it'd be a nice smooth finish. So these pistons on his legs are going to get hand painted. Another thing Anya did on her paint, but she painted these toes and the heel chrome. I think I'm going to leave mine the green. I kind of like it, just leave that the green to match the body. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. And that follows the box art too, I think, if I'm correct. Oh no, his toes are chrome. Maybe I will paint them chrome. I'll just hand paint something on there maybe. You know what I wish I had, which is what Anya uses, the old school Testors enamel paints in a square bottle. Those hand paint really nice. They take a long time to dry, but the chrome, man, it goes on really, really well. Okay, this is looking good. Ooh, that looks pretty. Yeah, it looks really sharp. All right, so I'm gonna unmask what I can on the face part of the robot. I've got a mask. I don't know if I can do any more painting on this today. I could probably hand paint the little detail here, but I really need to unmask the face and then mask the screen off and the mouth and figure out what I'm going to do there. But that needs to dry overnight before I do any more masking on top. If I thought this out, I could have made it so where I could cut this off and then pull it off, but the way the tape is on there now, I don't want to do that because it's not, it won't conform to the shape that I need easily. So I'm going to mask, get the masking tape off the areas I can, and then I'll come back. All right, so I'm going to show you what I did for the mirror. I'd masked this off earlier with everything else, and for the actual mirror part, I put down, I wet sanded it a little bit, and I put down a couple coats of Mr. Color GX2, followed up a couple light coats of Mr. Color and plate silver next, so we get this kind of metal mirror look. You know, it doesn't look like a mirror, but it's got a nice kind of chrome look to it, so it has a reflective. The last thing I'll do on the mirror is I'll hand paint this little bracket and this that little part of the wire. So now I gotta wait for some stuff to dry. So what I think I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna start hand painting some of the details on the feet. And it's basically just these little rivet details on the front and the back, and then the pistons. So for that, let's get out some colors. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some colors out. Okay, so I'm gonna use some pale burnt metal and just some black for some of those details. I'm just gonna work out of this little palette here. And I just bought some brushes the other day, so let's get out some new brushes. And I'll do a little bit of this on camera again because it's hard to paint on camera, but I can give you an idea what I'm doing. Okay, so for these little rivet details, I'm just going to paint the center of them with the pale burnt metal. I'll probably take a couple coats because this paint is not exactly flat. These little layout metallics like to stick to a flatter surface. Oops. The good thing is if I screw up, I can take it right off. My optimizer is hitting the phone. So just like that, and then there's some on the back side. I'm not sure you'll see these, but we're going to paint them anyway. And I'll probably do a pin wash. Be a black pin wash in these recesses just to clean up the details and help separate. Just like that. And then I think I'm going to paint. Oh, this little ribbon here. Let's do this guy. I'm just going to take a couple of coats to cover all the way. So that little bit of detail makes quite a bit of difference. I hate that. So I have my optimizer on, and I'm trying to see if I'm in frame, and then I bump the camera. It's really freaking frustrating. That's why I don't like to paint on camera too much. Especially when I have my optimizer on. It's not very convenient. Oops. So these Vallejo metal colors, you have to mix them up every once because they will start to separate after a little while. So I'm going to do as much as I can on the robot and the bike today. And then depending on what time it is, I'll start masking off Judy's clothing. We'll see. Oops, I whipped off the paint there. So all right, so nothing too exciting, but there we go. Got those little details painted. That adds quite a bit to the piece. Just doing that a little bit. This paint's gonna be pretty fragile till it dries. Okay, so I'm gonna put that to the side for now. Actually, no, what I can do is I can I'll go and paint these I'm gonna paint. So I've just got some black here, some Vallejo black. Make that part kind of a flat black. That'd be nice. Okay. So that looks good. And the Vallejo paint's kind of fragile too until it dries. I keep wanting to pull it up. I should let it dry a little bit more and put another coat on. Sometimes I try to go too fast, and especially doing acrylics, if I try to just keep putting it on, you just end up pulling up the previous layer, so you gotta let the first one dry a little bit. That's where my impatience comes into play. You gotta go back and clean up your mistakes. Okay. Looks good. Let that dry a little bit. So we can go back and get another coat on this one. Okay. Alright, that should dry nicely. Clean up a little bit here. Yeah, just gonna get a lot of clean up. Damn it. That's where I wish I had some of my hobby Q-tips, little pointy ones. So I need to get in there. Sorry, it's not the most exciting thing to watch, but just going through and cleaning up a little bit of overpaint I got going on. And the dogs are going crazy. All right, so that one looks good. I'll put that to the side, make sure this one looks clean. Okay, we'll let that dry, and I'm going to paint this little part, the pale burnt metal, to give it a little metal finish. And then I think those will be, for the most part. Oh, I got to paint the toes too. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I'll be back. All right, so I spent some time, and I got the toes and the heels painted that pale burnt metal. I am going to go ahead and probably gloss all this stuff because this paint needs a sealer, and I don't want to flat it. So I think a gloss is going to do everything, just make it all nice and shiny. So that's got to dry. That part is done. I can unmask this little radar for the back of the bike. Let's see how this looked. I went ahead and masked this. Hopefully, I masked it relatively soon after I painted the painted it green, but we should be okay. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. And then I masked in between the little dishes. And let's see if I can get that out. Yep, and it looks good. So that part's all painted and ready for the gloss coat. So I'll put that to the side. As I finish something, I just put it to the side and prep for the final stages so I don't mess it up. His little torso is done. These legs need to dry. Let's see, what else can I do on this today? I can hand paint. I'm going to hand paint this little detail here and the little tip of this radar dish. This needs to dry over. Oh, actually, I'm going to wait because I want to hand paint after I do the masking. So I don't think I can mask on top of this blue yet. I might be able to. We'll see. Really, it's mostly masking on top of the green to mask the screen and his smile. But I still have to decide what I'm going to do with the screen because of the art. The screen is pink and so is his smile. So I may do that. There's not going to be a heart on it like Anya did or like Boxcar because I got the TV screen to go in there. But maybe I'll just do pink like the art and then do the trim around the mouth. I'll hand paint the trim with the blue. I think that's what we're going to do. So yeah, anyway, I'll come back when I decide what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I'm going to try masking this stuff off now. It's dry for a few hours. It dries for 2 hours. I never masked on paint this fast, but we're going to give it a shot. So I'm going to paint the lens and the top of the speedometer. I asked Anya if she used a decal. She hand painted a little gauge on here, and it looked really good. So maybe I'll try that. I'll try hand painting a gauge. I found some decals I could buy, but it'd take a few days to get here. Scale model, like GAT gauge decals. But I might try to hand paint something like Anya did. Everyone aspires to be like Anya because she paints really well. So for the lenses, I'm just going to spray right over the blue and kind of use it as my shadow. I thought about spraying black first, but it might be kind of nice to have like a little blue shadow around the edges. So I'm going to use a little Mr. Color white here. I'm going to mix up my airbrush. Usually you don't do this, but I don't need a whole lot of it. A nice little leak in my quick connect. It's a cheap quick connect and they don't last. They tend to get leaks pretty easily. But the Iwata quick connects are like $30 a piece, so just kind of ridiculous, I think. So I'm gonna spray this, and if I can do this successfully and pull the tape off, I'll go and do the other ones on the. So I'm gonna start in the center here. Build up a highlight. Maybe a little more thinner now. Yeah, it's coming out kind of. So I don't like to mix Mr. Color in my airbrush because I actually like to do a thinning ratio on these guys. I can kind of see how it's thin. And then thin it in the cup. There we go. Oh, dang it. No, it came out too wet. Just trying to center this back off and kind of work your way out. And then I'm just going to kind of fan the edges a little bit. They should have a slight shadow around the edges, not much, just a little bit. And we have to just like that. Now let's see if we can save the front lens here. Little piece of tape here. I'll just let this main one dry a little bit because my airbrush kind of spit on it a little bit. There's some other little dots of lights and stuff, and we're just going to hand paint those. All right, so you get the idea here. So I get these sprayed, and then I might seal these so I can try to hand paint a gauge on this top one, and then once I get that done, I'll come back. Okay, so a little further, so I sprayed the lenses white, let those dry for a little bit, and I slowly puttied off the two bigger lenses on there, and then I sprayed some, to me, a clear red over, I guess, which would be the blinkers, so that's drying. I also went ahead and painted these, just hand painted these ribs, I guess. The exhaust, not the exhaust, but the Halliburton metal. So those are drying for a while. So once all this dries for, I don't know, this dry probably, 30 minutes or so, because that clear red's kind of wet. I'll unmask everything, the entire bike. We'll see what it looks like. And then if everything looks good, I should be able to gloss coat the bike. I have to go get some more 2K gloss. So kind of, if the masking works on everything, I might be able to get the bike kind of in gloss coat tonight, because then I gotta do I'm gonna do some pin washes around all the details, some black pin washes and stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna just keep going on this, and I'll come back when I've got more done. Again, it's just a lot of tedious stuff, so not much to show on camera. Okay, so it's the next day. I did some more work yesterday, and I just didn't video it. I forgot where I left off, to be honest. But so I've got this little kind of speed gauge painted. I went in and did some detail painting on these other little buttons here on the handlebars. Got this lens painted. This is all going to kind of get touched up with some. I thought about doing a black pin wash around the lens. I think I'm just going to do a dark metallic. I think that'll look better than black. Black's a little stark. I did have some, I went ahead and painted the headlight and these little lights. Those are going to get a wash. I did have some lifting on my green paint. So what I had like a little spot right here, and I had a little spot up here. It went right down the primer, so that tells me that there was a contaminant on the surface before I put the green down, which is unfortunate, but sometimes it happens. So what I did is I basically wet sanded with 1000 grit paper, and I just did some quick silly putting, and I decanted the green spray paint into my airbrush and airbrushed it on, and it blended just fine. So last thing I'm gonna do on the bike today is I'm gonna, and I also paint these little parts on the taillights, this kind of metallic color. I'm gonna silly putty off, I can actually probably, I'll silly putty because again, it seems like I'm having a few lifting issues here and there. So I'm gonna silly putty off this area. I'm gonna spray the lenses with some clear red, even though they're red when they're turned on, but I want them to look red when they're turned off. And then when that's done, I'm gonna go in and do some dark metallic, real fine line painting around the lenses here to kind of bring those out, and the panel lines, and even maybe around all the trim and stuff, just to kind of set that off a little bit more. Once that's done, I'm going to clear coat everything. So today's goal is to basically kind of get all that wrapped up. All the stuff in the background here, all this is ready basically for like pin washes and panel lines and clear coat. And then I got to work on the face of the guy. So let's do some of that real quick on camera. Get my airbrush going. So again, there's gonna be a lot of stuff I'm showing on camera because I'm at the point now where I just kind of need to work. So there'll be a lot of, I'm gonna explain what I do, show it off camera, or do it off camera and come back and show it to you, because again, these YouTube videos, even though it's not, there's no production value, it just slows me way down, and I gotta keep moving. So, and I'm having to take photos of my DSLR and all that stuff for the article, so. But I just wanted to have a YouTube video, so if people read the article later and want to have some video of it, it's there. So again, for the silly putty, I'm going to put a glove on again because my hands seem to be really sweatier than normal for some reason. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm getting old. I just want to keep the fingerprints down to a minimum. I went and bought a new, I'll show you what I have when I get to it. Automotive 2K clear kit. I went to the paint shop just because this, I think I mentioned it before, the stuff I have been using hasn't been curing correctly. So I went to the shop and like, yeah, I think my clear's past its due date or shelf life. And Shelly, who is the kind of the runs the counter there, she's like, yeah, your activator will once it's open, it only has a shelf life of about 3 or 4 months. So that's good to know. I did go ahead and buy a gallon kit, which is $100 for the whole setup, but it's cheaper than buying hobby clear. And the amounts that I use, it's actually cheaper to do it that way. Anyway, so going back to this guy. So I think what I'm gonna do for like around these lenses and stuff, because again, when you do this kind of stuff, it's not super clean a lot of times. So you go with a pin wash or something. Instead of you doing black, like I said, I think I'm going to use this exhaust manifold, which is kind of a dark metallic. And it'll be a good little pin wash. And I'm not going to use it as a wash. I'm actually going to go in there and paint it in. But since this is all glossy right now, it should be relatively easy to clean up. So I'm going to get a little fun paintbrush, a Q-tip, the optimizer. Because normally you would just kind of do a wash. So again, I'm just going to take a little paintbrush here. This is dried overnight. So I should be able to go in here. And I see a little silly putty in there still from, so I silly putty these lenses off yesterday. You want to make sure you get that all out because paint does not stick to silly putty typically. Just a little bit. So I'm just going to take a real small brush here. And trim this all out in this dark metallic. I was doing the pin wash, I would just kind of let it run in there. But since I'm actually painting, I'm just going to paint the lines in. Use a Q-tip to clean up the edge a little bit. And just like that, that's much cleaner. So I'm gonna do that to all the rest of this stuff, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I did the little headlight, and this front headlight is not actually casted perfectly round, so I'm trying to kind of cheat it with paint. And I think that's about as good as I'm going to get. So yeah, it's not just it's not a perfect circle. So sometimes you got to cheat with paint. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking this exhaust manifold, and I'm taking this really fine brush, and I'm actually putting a little line, again, like it's like a pin wash, but instead of wash, we're actually painting it on, just between all the little panels. And this is, I just tried one of these headlight housings first to see if I liked it, and I really like what it's doing. So it just adds a little separation, more separation between the green and the blue, and kind of adds a little shadow. Word of advice: don't try to do this stuff after drinking coffee, because I just had my coffee a little while ago, and my hands aren't exactly super steady. So yeah, just some advice there. Try not to do fine detail work with the brush after drinking coffee. So I'm going to do that around this headlight housing and around this detail strip and around the taillights, and then we'll be ready to silly putty off the taillights and put some clear red on there. And then once that's done, I'll work on the other stuff while that's drying, and then hopefully I'll be able to get all these parts in clear coat today, because while that's curing, I can work on Judy's outfit. Okay, so I went and did that panel, or that pin wash or panel line treatment on all the parts, and it all looks really good. Man, it really helped clean all the kind of messy masking I had yet. The masking wasn't messy, but putting in that little line really helps. So what you see here is I've silly puttied off, I masked and silly put off the taillights. I just sprayed several coats of Mr. Color Clear number 47. I'm gonna let that dry for at least 30-45 minutes before I unmask it. And then all that stuff is ready for clear coat. So I'll be able to do that today. I've just masked off the screen. I'm gonna send a message to my client to find out what color we're gonna do that. On the box art, it's pink. I'm not sure if we're gonna do that. And then you can see here, I did all that kind of panel lining wash. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the, I'm gonna mask this off and paint the handle, the grip, some flat black. Let that dry, that way I can mask that off and get this ready for clear coat. I still have to figure out if I'm gonna try to hand paint a speedometer on there like Anya did. I found some decals online, but I wouldn't get them for about a week, so I may try to hand paint something. It's maybe a little, we'll try it. I mean, can always erase it and take it off if I don't like it, but this is looking really good so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and mask this off, spray this with some flat black, let that dry for a while, and then work on getting some sort of speedometer painted on the top there, just something so it's just not blank white. But we're getting there. It's looking good. Okay, so I finally got everything ready to gloss coat. Taking a while. So this is the new clear I bought yesterday. Same brand as I had before. Apparently they don't make the line that I had before, which is a different number. I guess this is a little more expensive. High solids clear. I'm gonna try to get away with 2 coats on everything, because I don't want a lot of solids. I just want to gloss everything. So this is a 4-to-1 mix ratio. You want to make sure you have a clean airbrush. You want to make sure you have lots of ventilation, and you want to, I'm not going to spray this on camera again, because it's just really, really kind of nasty stuff. But as I go through, I'm going to make sure my parts are as clean as possible. And then we're going to go from there. So it's a 4-to-1 mix ratio. So I just use these mixing cups. And for the amount of stuff I've got, I'm going to mix it probably to, we'll mix it to the 2. I'd rather have a little more and not need it. Then have to mix it up again in the middle. So you can do 4 parts clear. So you mix it to the 1. Oh, it helps if you take the plug out. Duh. Brand new. I'm not a fan of these spouts, actually, because these get really messy pretty easily. Again, and this stuff stinks. You want to make sure you have a good ventilation respirator. I'm going to make a little bit of a mess here. I'm going to clean it up with thinner here in a second. So I went to the 2. Ideally, you pour from the other end of the can. It allows air in. And I'm going to do my best to clean this can up after every use, because what happens is this clear gets in the threads and it doesn't like to close up. It gets crusty. So I could use a little bit more, not quite to the 2. So ideally you pour it from this way. It allows the air to get in the can. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm right at the 2. So I'm going to do my best. Make myself a conscious effort to keep these threads clean, because the last can I had like this, man, there's a point where I couldn't even get the screw cap back on. They're assuming that you're going to use more than this than I am at a time, so okay. And then the activator, same thing. I'm just going to go to the 2, the next 2 on my cup. So it's 4-to-1. Okay, right there. So I went to the 2 here, and then I went to the 2 here. And you want to mix this up really, really. You can tell your clear is starting to kind of get old. It'll start to actually yellow a little bit. You'll pour it in your cup and it'll look a little yellow. And then I knew that my clear was going bad. And it wasn't the clear, it was the activator, because it was not curing. I just splashed. Fully, even after like 2 days, it was not curing all the way. I actually put another little splash of hardener in there because I just splashed this on myself. Just do a little dash. Now, when you buy a hardener, there's like slow, medium, and fast. This is a fast hardener, is all they had. Typically, I'd use a medium, but since the stuff I'm doing is fairly small, I don't need it to be a slower. I really definitely want a slow cure. Slow cure would take it, several days. So the way this works is you put on. This has 2 medium wet coats. I'll probably do like one kind of dry coat and then one wet coat. You let it flash or let it dry between coats about 10-15 minutes. That lets the gases escape. And then for cure times, this says dust, let's see, flash between coats 10 minutes, dust free 35 to 45 minutes, tack free 40 to 60 minutes, cut and buff, meaning I should be able to wet sand and buff this after 12 to 24 hours. And it says to deliver 16 to 24 hours. So basically you can deliver to your client after 16 hours. So I sprayed this today. It's right at noon right now. I'll let it dry overnight for sure. So I'll give it at least, 12, let's see, 12 plus 18 hours to dry, to cure. And my goal is to get this as dust free as possible. That's always the challenge when you're spraying this stuff, especially in like a spray room like mine, is to get a dust-free paint job. So I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna spray a few coats and I'll come back and show you what I got. Okay, well I got some good news and I got some bad news. The good news is that all these parts over here to my left took the clear just fine, and I only needed one coat to cover and get a nice shiny gloss. And it's not even a heavy coat. The bad news is that the clear wrinkled my paint on the bike, which really freaking sucks. I don't know why. It's only in some spots, but I had no reactions to any of these parts over here, but on the bike it wrinkled. So maybe this activator is a little too hot, so I have to let this dry overnight. And what I can do is I can actually save the tail lights. Those didn't wrinkle. Those turned out really, really nice. And the headlight housings and all this turned out fine. No wrinkling there. So I don't know why, but I got a reaction. You can kind of see it here and here. No clue why. So I have to let this dry overnight. I'm going to I'll definitely dry overnight because I can't do anything. But my thought is once this dries, I can mask off the areas that I can save wet sand everything else, reapply my color, and I'll use a different clear coat. I'll use Mr. Color Clear. I'll try Mr. Color Clear or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do the Ralcan Krylon Clear on top. It should be fine as far as glossiness goes. I just like the 2K because it levels out nicely, but that's a real fucking bummer. So nothing I can do about that now. I'm going to put this all to the side, let it cure overnight, and I'm going to start working on Judy's body. Start masking that off so I can start working on her clothes. So I'll be back once I get that set up. Okay, well, I saw my client the bad news about the paint wrinkling. There's nothing I can do about it. Years past, I would have thrown a fit, screamed, yelled, thrown stuff, you know, and all, but that doesn't do any good. So just kind of learned over the years, you know what? Don't do that because you're just going to screw something else up. And so I've had my few minutes of just being pissed off. Nothing I can do right now. So, but I can move on to masking Judy. So I got to show a little bit on camera. It's just the same process. We're going to mask her off, and I'm going to do my best to match the box art. It's basically like a 2 or 3 tone pink. She's got some darker pink, some lighter pink, some red. So you have to kind of interpret it because, again, you're going off an illustration. But and I'll have to give a little light sanding on some of these areas where it's just got some dry overspray. But as usual, I'm going to do my normal masking where I get a toothpick and a brand new blade and all that stuff. So again, nothing new, nothing exciting, but we'll show a little bit here. So I'm going to start on an easy area of the back. And again, just lay the tape in loosely like this. Get a toothpick or some sort of tool with the blunted tip. And go in there and just kind of follow the area that needs to be masked. Okay, just like that. Okay. I'll do the back and then I'll do everything else off camera. The back's the easiest part. I've done a tape test. I've had no lifting. Man, sometimes you have a project that just doesn't go your way. And, you know, for the most part, this has been going pretty smooth. I had a little bit of lifting. And I told my client, yeah, you know, I had it lifted on the bike in a few areas, or the paint wrinkled on the bike in a few areas. It didn't do anything on all the small parts. No reactions whatsoever. The clear went down perfectly. On the bike, it wrinkled in a few areas. So my initial thought was, like my client did, like, oh, well, you had lifting in those areas. Like, no, it didn't. Actually didn't wrinkle in the areas where I had lifting. It wrinkled other areas. So I don't know what happened. Contamination, humidity, who knows? I didn't put it on really wet. I put it on pretty light. So the clear just reacted with the paint for some reason on the bike. So I think I'll be able to save the headlights, like I said, and the all the lighting, like housings and stuff like that, and the tail lights. So I'm going to work on Judy here. And actually, the longer that bike kind of cures, the better. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just get her. I'll work on getting her wrapped up. This is going to take me. Let's see if I can get the mask. I'll get the masking done today and probably the first color down. And then I'll have to wait till tomorrow to do more masking and do the second color. So it's one of those things we got to paint, mask, wait, paint, mask, wait. Trying to get this piece so it overlaps where I want it to. There we go. I really like the colors on you. You use some really pretty colors. I'm going to put my optivisor on because this is some pretty sorry, it's pretty exact cutting I got to do. So I'll make sure I don't mess it up. I'm going to put my optivisor. A lot of times I don't use my optivisor when masking, but I probably should. My eyes are Not as good as it used to be. Yeah, it's a brand new blade. Let the blade do the work. Got one little spot here. I'll have to go back and a little piece of tape. Again, I typically go back after I cut the tape and it'll seal the edges again. Got one little spot there that didn't quite get covered, so I'll just take a little piece of tape here. Just cut a little piece off on the side. Kind of just patch it in. Just like that. It's good. Yeah, so it was a while ago. Oh, I think I've told this story before, but I was home working. It was just me and my son, and he was in his room doing something, playing video games or whatever. And I was just about to finish. I think it was a Superman or Thor. I can't remember which one it was. Probably Superman. And I just got done doing the cape, which would have finished the piece. So I'm taking the cape out of the paint room, and I drop it, and it breaks in two pieces, and I just lose my shit. Like, literally, like, I screamed so loud, I actually lost my voice for about 3 days. And I scared my son really, really bad. He was really scared. Like, he didn't know what was going on. So from then on, that was kind of told me, like, look, you don't have to overreact like that. You don't have to, you know, shit's going to happen every once in a while. So just take a breath. And you know what? In the end, it didn't take me that long to fix it. It took me... I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take me like 2 days to fix this cape. I think I got it fixed in a day, maybe half a day. But it was scaring my son the way I did. That kind of made me take a step back as far as like overreacting when I screw something up. So it's rare that I, you know, I'll let out a cuss word here or though, but I don't like scream and yell and throw a fit anymore. It's not worth it. You know, it sucks that shit happened like that, and it happens every once in a while. It doesn't happen often, but you know, it's part of doing this kind of stuff. So I think what I'm going to do when I get the bike repainted, I won't use the 2K clear. I'll probably use what I'll do is I'll spray a couple spoons while I'm respraying the bike, and I'll test out. The thing about Mr. Color Clear is I can never get to spray as smooth as the 2K Clear, because the thing about the 2K is it levels out, so it's a slow drying clear cut. That's why it gets so slick. But there are a couple of tricks that I've heard people do to get that to slick out a little bit more. So even her Tamiya Clear. If you use Tamiya Clear with Mr. Color Thinner, spray it on, and then spray just lacquer the Mr. Color Thinner on top of it, it smooths it out. So I'm going to give that a shot. Okay, so that's all you do for masking. You know, same thing. Mask it, cut it. I'm going to work on the rest. It's going to take a while to do their arms, chest, and hair and head, and then I'll decide which color to put down first. I'm thinking, my initial thought is looking at, again, I'm kind of using Anya's paint up as a guide as far as really color placement. Because the way I paint, I'll probably do the dark areas first, because it looks like these areas go a little bit darker first, and then this is a lighter strip. So yeah, I think I like to do a recessed areas first, and that means on here, let's see, this area right here would get painted around here to the back. And then same thing on this side. Let's see what May's Anya's again for color placement as far as what she did on the back, because there's no good shots of the back. So I'm going to continue masking. I'll be back later. Okay, so I got all the masking, and it actually didn't take as long as I thought it would, maybe an hour and a half or so. I went ahead and used silly putty on her face and her neck just because it's hard to get tape in there. So I usually wouldn't do that, but we'll just make it work and we'll touch it up later. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking this microfine sanding sponge right here. I'm not gonna worry about the legs, but over here on the body where I did all the skin tones, I've got some dry spray just from all the misting and stuff. So I'm just gonna get a very, very light kind of wipe with this to kind of get that dry spray off. So I can, so the paint will lay smoother. Again, that's really sanding. I'm just kind of giving a little wipe. And I can feel if it comes off. It's just basically to get the dry overspray from all the, because when you do like the misting and stuff on, when you're trying to blend skin tones, it goes on dry. So I'm just using this tool here with the sponge to kind of get down around the neckline a little bit. Again, I'm not really sanding. I'm just kind of, and this is equivalent to like 1,000 grit sandpaper, so it's not really, not taking much off. It's just kind of getting rid of all that dry spray. So my next colors will lay down. So I kind of did, I did that also after I've done that before on the neckline. I think I showed that in a different part of the paint video. But yeah, so that's all masked off. This looks good. I'm gonna give this a little wipe down, and then I'm gonna have to come and mix up some colors for the dark color first. I'll be back. Okay, so for the darker red, I've got a mixture of russet, some white, some pink, and a little bit of purple, and this is the color I've come up with here. Spraying that on the legs, and I'll spray it on the areas on the torso that I get that. We'll see what it looks like, and then I'll go in and add some shading. So I'll show you the shading when I get back. Okay, so I got that first base color down. It's kind of like a mauve, which is kind of what I was going for. Looks pretty good. So this is, I just sprayed the body. We'll let that sit for a second. So I actually have a slightly lighter color mixed up than I made when I was mixing all those colors. So it's just a little bit brighter, a little more pink. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add a little bit of a highlight to some of this, to like the muscles and stuff. And then it's gonna be real subtle. And then I'm gonna go in and add some shadows. And a little down the knee. It's pretty subtle. Might not even show up in camera, but I'm seeing it here in person. Backed off quite a bit, just kind of letting it fade. Kind of naturally fade into the shadows a little bit. Pink is actually a really hard color, I think. I'm gonna go and do my shading with like a darker, clear red. I'm gonna get this color down today and let the driver know I can mask this off and then do the light pink. And then the heart on her chest goes red. So that's looking pretty good. Again, pretty subtle. As far as the highlighting goes, it'll pop more when I add the shadows. Not much here in the front, just kind of adds a little bit. That's really it for the front. For the torso. I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back and I'll come in and start adding some shadows and stuff with a darker clear red. Okay, so this is dried for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so. Now we're gonna go and do some shading, adding some shadows. I have this custom color I mixed up a long time ago. It's like a deep clear red with a little bit of purple in it. So we're gonna give it a shot. I did a little bit and so far it looks like it's gonna work. So I think a little purple in there is gonna be good. So again, I'm just gonna kind of hit the super light. Backed off quite a bit, hit the muscles. And then kind of go along the trim too a little bit. You know, I always like to have a shadow on two surfaces, pieces of fabric meet. Bring out her thigh, her butt a little bit. It's probably hard to see in camera as usual, but looking good here. And that's what matters. All right, so we're gonna go around and do that, and then I'll probably let that dry for a while, and I'll seal it all and see what it looks like. Okay, so I did all that shading, and it looks good, but I feel like it needs a little more red in it, so I'm misting on some Mr. Color 47 clear red, just kind of, again, shifting the color a little bit. And then when I seal this should all come together. So just real light, not putting this on too heavy, just shifting the color a little bit. That's kind of a nice color. That should look really good against the lighter pink on the suit. It's actually pretty close to what Anya had going on. I didn't really intend to do that, but it kind of happened. I like it. Again, just really lightly missing this clear red on. That's kind of what I'm looking for right there. This matches the box art, this color right there. It was a little too maroon before. But that looks good there. And the torso looks good. The torso actually should be a little bit darker according to the box art, so it is a hair darker, which is fine. So since we're using that as a reference, I'm okay with that. That's a new block of foam over here. So I'll let this all dry for a good, I don't know. Let's see, I'm gonna probably put a little more of this red on here. Kind of hard to see what's happening until we seal it. It's got a little too much shine on it right now. But missing that red on made a huge difference. One little dot there. Ah. My lid fell off. I don't want to. Come on, stay. So if I get this done today, then that'll be it for today. Nothing else I can do, which is a full day. Unfortunately, the bike screwed up. I was really hoping to have that done today, but it is what it is. Okay. All right, this looks really good, I think. And we look at it next to the pants, they look good. All right, so we'll seal this in a little while and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, so it's the next morning. I finished up this color yesterday and sealed it, and I think this looks really, really sharp. It looks very close to what I'm seeing on the box art, to be honest. It's a little more on the mauve side, but I like it. And here's the torso. So now I'm gonna go and mask all these areas off, and then we'll spray the light pink. And I'll probably do maybe a pearlescent on top of it to give it a little shimmer. I don't want like straight up metallic, but I think a pearlescent will look good. So I'm going to start masking, and then we'll get the pink on, but I'm not going to show masking because it's the same process. So we'll get that masked, and I'll have to custom mix a pink. I'm going to have to wait to go to the hobby store because I don't have a pink that I think that's going to work. And also, I used to have a bunch of Pearl X pigments. I think my wife and my daughter stole them, so I'm going to have to go buy some more because I want to use a pink pearl in the top coat. So after I get masking, we'll come back and see what kind of pink I've mixed up. Okay, so I've been kind of been bouncing around. I got the masking done on the torso and the legs. I put another coat of Style Res primer on, letting that dry. Got a few little areas I got to sand down on the legs once that's dry. I've been bouncing back and forth between sanding the bike and masking and all that stuff. I had to run out and get more tape. So this is just one of those projects that's it was going really, really good until this happened. Anyway, so you can see I got quite a mess right here, but it's actually pretty good. I got a little more sanding right there. So basically I sand until I don't feel any roughness. So this looks pretty messy, but it's actually really pretty good. I masked off the areas that I could save. I'm going to sand this little spot right here a little bit more. Try to smooth it out some more. And I was using between a super fine sanding sponge and 800 grit wet sandpaper. So now I got to decide what kind of primer I'm going to use. My initial thought is to use Style Res again, but I think I'm going to try a spot. I'm going to test a spot with Mr. Color Surfacer because I've got all these live edges. and I want to be able to make sure that that gets sealed down. I don't know. Well, maybe I'll just throw a little light coat stone resin on because I know that's water-based and it's not going to have any reactions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this little spot right here. Man, that clear coat, it really just, for whatever reason, it did a number on the bike. All the other parts are fine. They look great. Super slick. So I'm not going to use the 2K clear on this again. I'm going to try using a trick that Mike Salzo posted a while back using Tamiya clear and Mr. Color leveling thinner. Okay, that feels pretty good. So I'm gonna prime this, and hopefully I don't have to do any sanding on it. We'll see. I might have to do a light sanding after I prime it to even things out. Basically, what you got to do, unfortunately, when you have something like this, you got to go through and you got to get all the shiny spots off, because if it's shiny, nothing's going to stick to it. So I've washed this already. Now I'm just going to go through and kind of re-hit the spots that are sticking out shiny, that are too shiny. And then when I mask off the blue again, I'm going to use silly putty instead of masking tape. So we're just going to take a really, really delicate approach to this now, since I had this major snafu. Luckily, I think even though I'm going to use silly putty, since I did a kind of nice metallic detail line between the two colors, I think even if my edge isn't perfect, I think it's still going to work, because I'll be able to just touch it up with that color. I have some stone resin in my brush here. Let's see. It's dried out already, because I left the lid off. So let me see if I can get this going. Come on. Ugh. So I'm hoping today I can get this bike reprimed and get the green on. My goal is to get the green on this today and get the second color of pink on her. And then I'll really need to let that dry overnight. And then the only other, then I got to do her boots. Her boots have some detail in it. But mostly black. The box art's black. I only did some other colors on it, but I just kind of like the solid black. I think I'm going to go with that. Oh my gosh. Now I'm going to take this airbrush apart to clean it, because I was stupid and I left it open. No, it's dried up on me. Let's see. Is this one working? I don't know. This is why I have like 12 airbrushes. So when I forget to clean one and it dries up, I can just go to the next one. And then I'll spend a day on a weekend, like a Saturday, and I'll spend half a day breaking them all down and just giving a good clean. I do that about every half dozen projects. Okay, so this is some gray stone res again. And when I put this on light, I don't want to hose it on. We're going to mist this on. Again, light touch for everything. I masked off the areas that I could save. The headlights, the tail lights. So the trick when you're doing something like this is you gotta, if you put stuff on too wet, when you have all these, a live edge is this stuff. This is all what's called a live edge. If you put something on too well, especially a solvent base, what will happen is that solvent base will soften that edge and that will wrinkle. So it's real important to have a light touch. I can get a few coats of this on. I'm just gonna go real slow and put a couple light coats on, let them dry really, really well. And then as I do that, I can build it up and get it on a little wetter once I know those edges have been sealed. Yeah, this is just a really, really huge bummer that this happened, because the bike would have been done yesterday and it would have looked fabulous. I'm just really, really glad. So I'm looking at the positive. I'm really glad that all the other little stuff, to be honest, this is actually the easiest part out of all the parts to paint. The bike is the easiest. It's all that little robot stuff that took the longest. So if it was going to happen, I'm glad it happened to this. So I'm going to look at it that way. I need to get this on the stick. Okay. Yeah, so it's a bummer. It's been a long time since I had, the last time I had paint wrinkle like this was on Daphne's Surprise, which was another Mark Havocan Filmy's Girl piece. Maybe there's something wrong with Mark's kits. I'm gonna say that he's gonna get pissed at me because I said something like that, but it's not has nothing to do with his kit. Trust me, has nothing to do with the kit. There's something in the chemistry that just did not jive with those two paints on the bike. Again, I'm just kind of putting this on real light. Okay. So I'm going to let this dry for a good 10 minutes before I go and put another coat on. Again, I don't want to activate those wet edges, so we're going to let this dry. I'm going to keep building this up, and then we'll come back when this is done. Okay, so a little further along, so I got the bike sanded. I think I left off with it being, I don't know, I sanded it, I put some more stynol res down, I masked off the lights, and I just got done spraying the green for the second time. So we'll let that dry overnight, and then we'll touch it again tomorrow. So for the rest of her pink on her suit, I found, I was going to do like a clear coat with pearl and all that stuff. When I was at Hobby Lobby, I found this. And like, that is the exact color I'm looking for. This is Pearlized Createx, it's magenta. So it's not really pink, but it's got a little purple undertone to it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade it with some of my dark clear red that I've got mixed up, and this is what we're going to get. So I'll do a little bit of this on camera again, and then we'll do it, and I'll seal it, and then that'll be a full day. There's not much else I can do tonight because I got to let shit dry. The bike, I could probably, so when I do the bike on the blue on the bike, I'm going to silly putty. I could probably silly putty tonight if I really wanted to. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so here's what we got. Here are the legs. And I'm going to take a little bit of this custom clear red. This is a Mr. Color. I've already tested it on a spoon, and I sealed it with Krylon flat, and it works beautifully. So this red, if you just spray it by itself, it's a little, it's kind of like a blood red, but mixed with with this magenta, it turns out really, really pretty. And it should work well with the dark tone I have got going on. So again, I'll do a little bit here on camera. So it's kind of the same thing as so get a real nice effect. My client's like, you should do like a darker tone. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get there. Don't worry. So the combination of magenta and this kind of dark red I think this is exactly what we want. Again, just going to hit all the edges. Anywhere there's a muscle, a little bit of a muscle. It's hard to do on camera. %, when I'm airbrushing, I'm airbrushing off the side of my bench because the tabletop actually gets in my way. So I actually turn my chair to the side. I'm usually spraying like out in the open. This is just easier. And as I paint this, it kind of overspray kind of gets onto the metallic magenta, and it just kind of tones it down a little bit and shifts the color a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all that, and then I'll let it dry for a while. I'll seal it with the Krylon, and we'll take a look at it when I'm done. Okie dokie, so now it's Friday, and I finished yesterday by doing the shading on the pink, and this looks really freaking good. So here are the legs. Only thing left to do on the legs are to paint the black on the boots. I'll probably hand paint that. And then here's the torso. So for this, initially I was gonna mask off this chest and spray that different color. So instead of doing that, what I did is just kept layering on the clear red to darken it down, because I just wanted a different tone. And I kind of did the same thing on these little 2 pieces of trim on the skirt. And this looks really good. So what's left on this part are the gloves. And then I'll unmask everything, and we'll check my masking. Hopefully it's okay. I'll probably have some touch-ups here and there, mostly probably around the neckline. We'll see what I got to do there. But I might mix up with like a really dark kind of red as a pin wash, and go in and kind of touch that up a little bit in the area. So for now, for the gloves, I'm just going to silly putty off everything and spray white on the gloves, and then I'm going to hand paint the grip, the handlebar grip. And I'll hand paint the black on the boots. I probably won't show that, just describe what I do so I can keep working. I also sprayed the green on the bike again yesterday. I think I mentioned that. And then I did some tests on some spoons for a clear coat. So what I did is I sprayed the green, I did the Silent Res, and then I sprayed the green on these again. And I used the trick that Mike Salzo told me. So one I just did right on top of the paint, which is this. This is just the paint with the Mr. Color Clear, or the Tamiya Clear, and the Mr. Color Leveling Thinner, and it turned out pretty good. And this one I actually put Krylon flat on top and then did the clear, and it actually turned out a little bit better. But the thing is that the Krylon flat actually changed the color a little bit, so I can't do that method. So what I might try is doing this and then doing the 2K on top of this, because this should seal it and protect it from the 2K clear. So that might work, because I know you can do like all clad aqua gloss, let that cure, and then do a 2K clear on top of that for like a chrome. So I'd like to do a 2K on the bike to really match the glossiness of the handlebars. But yeah, so that's where I am. So I'm going to start working on the gloves and the boots on this, and try to get the clothing wrapped up, and we'll take the masking tape off when I'm done with that. Okay, well, it's always fun when you think you're recording, but you're not. So anyway, I unmasked her. Everything was really, really, really good. Masking was probably like 99% there. I had a few little small areas on her skin where I didn't get tape, which is weird, because considering how much tape I had on her. I had like a little spot on her bicep here, a little spot on her forearm. And so I took, and as I'm going around, I'm just seeing like little things I'm just trying to clean up as I go. But for the most part, it's really good. Took an ultra fine sanding sponge. I just dampened it a little bit, and I can use it like an eraser. And I just really, there's a little spot right here, because very, very, I'm not putting any pressure. Just very, very lightly swiping over the surface. And 9 times out of 10, it comes off. I kind of just go with a toothpick too, and kind of use like a little scrubbing brush. I'm being real nitpicky. Most of the stuff you don't see with the naked eye. That one I may touch up with a brush. There's a little dot of skin tone, but that's the advantage of sealing your pieces over and over again, is that you can go in and use things like a sanding sponge or a toothpick, and use like an eraser to erase things that you didn't quite get. So I'm just going in with a tone I mixed up. I've got, for my touch-up paint, I've got Grimoire Purple from Army War Painter. Got a little Ammo by MIG red, and a touch of black, and I've got this kind of deep purple. And it's been perfect for touching up all the darker tones, the non-metallic. The only other spot I got to really touch up is the neckline, which I knew I would because of the silly putty. So I'm going to try it with this color. We'll see what it looks like. It may be too dark. It may not be the right tone. We'll see. If I get something on there, then I can go back and blend it in with something different. But if it actually just might help it kind of give it a shadow effect. which is fine. Yeah, that actually works just fine, so I can go with that. It just kind of gives it a little shadow effect on that collar against the skin, so this will work. I wouldn't be able to do this with the metallic. I would never get it to match since it's a candy. That's a disadvantage to using candy colors, is they're near impossible to, you can't brush touch them because you got all the different layers of tone. So anyway, once I do all the edge touch-ups, the last thing on her upper torso is I got to paint the bow and gloss her eyes, and then this part is done. But this looks really, really good. I'm super happy. I went really slow unmasking. It took my time. It took me about an hour just to unmask her, because I remember I had 2 layers of masking. I masked the skin to do the kind of the matte dark maroon parts, or the mauve parts, and then I masked again to do the metallic pink. But this looks really sharp. So looking at the box art, it's not quite as contrasty as the box art, but I think it looks really well. So really happy with this. I think my client's gonna dig it. So I'm gonna finish touching up the edges. I'm gonna hand paint the bow a blue. He wants it to match the bike, but I'm not gonna match it exactly. I'll just do like a blue on there. And then we'll get this part finished up, and then I'll work on the legs. Okay, so we got all the edges touched up. I got the bow painted. And I just mixed up for that. I mixed up some Vallejo Air Chrome and some Vallejo Persian Blue. And I kind of got this metallic blue. So now we got a shimmery blue bow. So the last thing to do on the upper torso is to gloss her eyes. So for that, I'm just going to use what I typically use, and that's just the Vallejo gloss varnish. And I usually do like 2 or 3 rounds of this. I've done 2K clear before on eyes. It's just, the thing is you can't clean it up if you screw it up. So this is just some Vallejo gloss varnish. I need to gloss the lips too. I'll do 1 coat, let that dry, and I'll usually do a 2nd coat. And just let it run into the corner of the eye. Same thing with the lips. So I put it on pretty heavy and just let it flow out and let it dry naturally. Don't force dry it or anything, just let it sit there. And this stuff dries relatively quick. I mean, it'll dry within probably 5 minutes. So I'll do that a 2nd time, and then the upper torso is done, and it looks really, really freaking good. So I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna work on the legs, and I'll come back. Okay, a little more work later. I got the black on the boots painted, hand painted those, sealed them. I was able to silly putty off the blue on the bike, got that spray, let that dry for about an hour, took the silly putty off, and I went in and unmasked the other parts of the bike to see how it looked. And I haven't asked my client, but I may not try to gloss the bike now. It looks pretty damn good. I mean, the robot's got a little deeper gloss, but other than that, I think it looks really nice. Even the handlebar and the headlights don't stand out so much. So I'm gonna send a couple photos to my client, see what it says. If he likes it, then she's done. This looks really freaking good. This is a lot of work, guys. Probably, let's see, 40. Let's see, I had a full week the first week I did this. and then another 75 to 80 hours roughly, somewhere in there, 70 hours to 80 hours, that's not including the time to sand the bike and repaint the bike. That was actually didn't take too long. That was like maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, not even that. About an hour to sand. It only took me about 20 minutes to mask it off, 10 minutes to spray it. So, not too bad. Here's the license plate I made. Looks really good. I just did a reverse wash on that. So we've got Judy back there. The lights are working really nice. I haven't put the TV screen in yet. I got to program that. So I'll do that. I have to get online and figure out how to do that. But this is looking really sharp. So once I figure that, I'll come back and do one more kind of like overview. Once I send photos to my client, see what he says. If he wants to keep the bike as is, or if we want to try to gloss it again. My initial gut feeling is like just leave it because it looks good. I don't know if adding a high gloss is really going to make a big difference. So anyway, and it does kind of help separate from the robot a little bit. Again, it's not that big of a difference. This just has a deeper gloss. This is still glossy. It's just not a super deep gloss, but it looks good. So really happy with this. So hopefully my client's going to dig it. Okay, so Judy is officially done. So I've uploaded episodes of Jetsons to the TV. The episode that's playing right now was the Eep Op Ork or a date with Jet Screamer is the name of the episode. I've uploaded 8 episodes of the Jetsons on here, so now each channel is its own episode. So like if I switch channels and I go to the next episode, it's playing from where I left off previously. If I go back to the last episode that I was just watching, it just picks up from where you left off. So there's like no fast forward or rewind. So I've got 8 channels of Jetsons. So, and it's actually a lot louder because I put the speaker in here and it kind of amplifies it. So that's pretty freaking, it's pretty cool. So you can see there's some lines going on because of the, it's video on the screen. So I've got like, there's an episode, Judy elopes, Judy like runs away or something, date with Jet Screamer. So I try to pick episodes where it's heavy with Judy, but you just kind of do what you do. And then it's got obviously the ones that were on there before. Ooh, my hand's in the way, sorry. This is as loud as it gets, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, she's all done. Another thing we did is I was sending the photos to my client. We changed the base, so I went ahead and painted this part flat black, and the bottom is a warm white. We changed it from a tan to kind of go off white, and it does look a whole lot cleaner now. So much better. Good choice on my client's part for doing that, and she looks freaking awesome. Really happy. We did not gloss the bike. We left it as is. We just figured it looks great as it is, and why try to screw it up. But there you go. Judy's done. A lot of work. Oh, here's the license plate. If we take that off, we can flip the lights on. Lights work. You put the license plate back on. It's not a tight fit, but it just fits on there. It's got our name, Judy. And there you go. Judy's finished. Really fun piece. Very challenging for me. Again, I don't do girl kits. The kit was challenging. Mark put out a great kit. I think the engineering could be a little bit better as far as where the cuts were made. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And my opinion is it should have been cut where we cut at the waist for ease of assembly and painting. And then the head. I think if the head would have been cut, again, I'm not a kit producer or sculptor, so this is just like what I would do if I could cut it. Instead of cutting it at the jawline, maybe cut it where the neck meets the collar. Let me turn this down because it's actually kind of loud. Maybe cut the neck at the collar, so the collar is separate, the head is separate, but this whole part of the head is separate, so it'd be easier to paint. Because the thing I was really struggling the most with this when painting is once the head is on and I'm trying to seal it, I get a lot of dry spray up in the back side of the collar and on the bottom side of the collar. So I actually went in and sanded that dry spray off after I completely finished her with a very light sanding sponge, and it made it better. It's not perfect, but again, that's the hardest part because you're trying to get a nice coated sealer on there, and you just get dry overspray. But she looks really, really cool. My client digs her. Let me bring my exposure down because she's looking pretty pasty in this video. Trying to compensate for all the darker tones. But yeah, really, really happy with this. The pinks look fantastic. It's actually really close, very spot on to the box art. The only main difference between my paint and the box art is that these darker areas are a lot contrasted. They're a lot darker. But I like this. It's a very nice difference between the pearlized metallic pink and the kind of flat, non-metallic parts of her legs. In the build, when I was doing the building, you guys will remember I actually put a pin from her leg into the bike. I decided I don't need that pin, so there, between it pinning into the handlebar and it just sitting in that key, it fits just fine. I don't need that pin, so I'm not going to put it in. There's a shot of her rear end looking pretty nice. But yeah, just a fun piece, great concept, great kit by Mark, great concept art by Simon. And overall, really high quality kit from Mark Havocan and Filmy's Girls. But there you go, guys. Judy's done. And we'll leave you off with a little little Jetsons. So I'll take final photos, and then I'll put those at the end of this. And this, here we go, baby, baby, baby. Eat, pop, work, There you go. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.
Meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy. Daughter Judy. Jane, his wife.